So when we want actually to change how we operate, what do we think about us and the world, and start to change beliefs? What's happening there on the physical level or in the brain?
This is one of my favorite topics, so I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm actually working on some lectures right now on what is the subconscious mind, because we talk about it as if it's a place in the brain. However, the science of plasticity is much more exciting, because this shows you that you can forge new pathways in your brain, and you do this by many different ways. And so my program Alchemical Trance incorporates a lot of those different. In the glasses here, so you can see the glasses, yeah, there are LED lights in there. So you just put the glasses on, you close your eyes, and now the LED lights begin to flash. You're still going to see the flashing lights in front of your closed eyelids. And then you wear headphones. But for those people who like hanging out with me, they're usually a little bit of a nerd like I am. And so I have the technology available for people if they want to use it. So this is one I've been working with personally for a little while, but I want to start incorporating it in live sessions. So I remember doing these guided visualizations of myself listening to my own voice and going to visit this land one day, and I just had this crazy, profound experience where I realized it was the exact land from my visions.
Welcome to Limitless, the podcast. I'm your host, Jelena, and this podcast is for anyone who has ever felt stuck in old patterns or trapped by limiting beliefs, or wondered whether there is more to life than what they have been told. So if you have ever asked yourself, why do I keep repeating the same experiences, or why is change sometimes so difficult? Can I actually rewire my mind and create a different reality? Is consciousness bigger than the brain? Then today's conversation is for you. Our mission here is very simple. So to bridge science, consciousness, and personal transformation, and practical tools that can help us and you to become more intentional creators of our lives. Because whether we realize it or not, we are shaping our experience every single day through our thoughts, through our emotions, and through our beliefs, and through our habits, and through the stories we tell ourselves every day. Today's guest is someone who stands at a fascinating intersection between neuroscience and consciousness. Brooke Roberts is a cognitive neuroscientist whose work focuses on brainwave dynamics, neurotechnology, cognitive performance, and expanded states of consciousness. And so together we are going to explore questions such as, what is consciousness? Can we really rewire our brains? How do beliefs become biological patterns? And what role does identity play in creating our lives? And of course, what are some practical ways anyone can begin creating lasting change? So we also talk about Brooke's work at the Dancing Jaguar Retreat Center in Costa Rica, and we'll explore her vision for the future and how she hopes to help others with their work. So Brooke, thank you so much for being here. It's a wonderful opportunity to discuss this beautiful topic.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So I would really love to start asking you a little bit more about your story. I believe many people see science and spirituality as a separate worlds. And your work definitely seems to merge both things. I can imagine that you have started with science and then spirituality came in almost organically. I don't know, it's just my assumption. So my question is, how did your journey evolve? How did these two pieces that seem like opposing merge together? When did you realize that there is maybe more to reality than what traditional science could explain? And what has the journey taught you about yourself? So it might be a big question or short, but we would love to know more about you and about your journey.
Thank you for that big question. I have always had both science and spirituality in my life. However, they were separated. I had them in two compartments. So I always had a pretty rich spiritual life, always into science and experimentation, research, exploring, curiosity. So both of those things have always been present for me. However, I would say sometime towards the end of graduate school, I got very much into yoga and meditation. And that's when my spiritual side started evolving into a different way, where I started seeing science and spirituality as extensions of each other. And so now I didn't just have spirituality over here and science over here. I started to see how they came together. However, I still, in my scientific career, kept them very separate. So I was studying things like how neurochemistry affects our cognitive abilities, and started studying other ways to investigate how the brain works and how to manipulate the brain so that it performs better. And as I continued to go down those roads, it became clear that some of the best research we have on enhancing cognitive performance is really about how you work with your own mind. And so there's still more research, I would say, on meditation than any other of these really fancy things that we do with the brain, like brain stimulation. There's still way more research on meditation. It's really impressive. I think so often we pigeonhole science over here and spirituality over here, but there's actually so many people who are already doing research on both sides. So for me, yeah, I've been doing research for, so 26 years, something like that. And now my life career path is evolving yet again. I'm still doing some work as a contractor for the military in my very scientific career, but now I'm also evolving and creating my own program based on everything I've learned, both from neurotechnology side and from all of my training in yoga, meditation, breath work, all of those things. I'm merging them into together, and I'm very excited about that new program I'm launching.
That's so inspiring to me. I actually want to focus more on the spirituality, but I have to ask one question before. What has brought you to neuroscience? What was the inspiration?
Oh, I started in zoology, so I wanted to study primate behavior. I was obsessed with how similar monkey and non-human primate cognition was to our cognition. I was fascinated, obsessed with monkeys and apes, and all I wanted to do was follow them around the jungle like Jane Goodall, and getting into field research just wasn't in the cards for me. I ended up in a neuroscience lab at Yale University teaching monkeys how to do working memory tests. So that was actually my introduction into neuroscience. It really started because I was so interested in primatology and animal behavior, and then that merged into neuroscience. And once I entered into that space, I just, went down all new rabbit holes, ended up getting my PhD in neuroscience, and then moved into human work, human brain imaging. And so that's how it evolved.
Wow. That's all spectacular for me. So we will talk more about the nature and your programs. And obviously there is a connection to nature. I'm very, very curious to know about your retreats. But my next question would be more around the consciousness. Since you probably went this rabbit hole and thought from the science perspective, from the spiritual perspective, from your own experience, what is the consciousness for you? Is it created in the brain somewhere else? Is it just the brain, something that receives consciousness? How do you see it for yourself?
I would start by saying this is my opinion based on my life experiences. So I would say the science is very unsettled on this. And I think probably earlier in my career, I just assumed consciousness was coming from the brain, all these electrical signals, they were creating your consciousness. But I think I only thought that from a very intellectual place. From a more spiritual place, I don't think I ever fully believed that, because whenever you're having conversations with God, for instance, that doesn't feel like it's coming from your brain. So it's of my personal opinion that consciousness is all around us and we're all connected through the field. Consciousness is primary and our brain is secondary. So it does act a little bit more as a receiver. Again, my personal opinion. So I am excited always to see new scientific research on that topic because it's a very difficult thing to study and show is one way or another.
And then in terms of brain, in subconscious part, we store our beliefs and programs and traumas, and then we automatically perform based on what we have saved in our brain. If you think about this topic and also the way that the change happens in us, so when we want actually to change how we operate, what do we think about us and the world and start to change beliefs? What's happening there on the physical level or in the brain?
This is one of my favorite topics, so I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm actually working on some lectures right now on what is the subconscious mind, because we talk about it as if it's a place in the brain, and it's not at all. But I do love the model, the framework of subconscious, conscious, and even superconscious. So you can think of that as a framework for how the mind works. But there isn't like, here's the subconscious mind here in the middle of your brain, and here's the conscious mind on the outside of your brain. It's very different than that. And so I'm diving deep into creating some lectures for people on exactly what are the neural correlates of what we consider to be the subconscious part of that model of the mind. And so there's so many different automatic processes that happen in the brain, and they happen in different areas of the brain, different networks of the brain. And so the brain is very efficient, right? And so it's really great that we have all these automated processes. It keeps us alive and functioning and doing very well. However, the science of plasticity is much more exciting because this shows you that you can forge new pathways in your brain, and you do this by many different ways. And so my program Alchemical Trance incorporates a lot of those different ways. So some of those ways, of course, are learning and repetition. The more times you do something, you can imagine like a hiking trail. The more times someone walks down a hiking trail, the more clear that path becomes. So repetition, of course, is one. And as you know, we've studied both quite a bit about the role of emotion. When you apply emotion to something or apply meaning to something, that is something that your brain can learn a little bit faster. And my favorite way to work with this, of course, is to get into a special cognitive or brain state that allows us to work by creating new neural pathways. And that brain state that I love to work with is called the hypnagogic state. That is that state between waking, sleeping, and dreaming. And hypnagogic state, hypnagogic, and some people pronounce it hypnagogic. But imagine you're just drifting off to sleep at night. Do you ever find that sort of imagery comes to you and you're kind of dreamy and you're not quite sure if you're awake, you're asleep, or you're dreaming? Absolutely. Yes. That state is very special because our brainwaves start to slow down, we relax, and we start to enter a state where we can think about having access a little bit more to that subconscious mind. It makes it easier to work in that space. And of course, there are so many ways to get to that state and work with it. And that's what my program is about.
Well, I love that. So if you want to say a little bit more about the program, because my question would otherwise be, how do you do it? How do you put yourself in that state? And then what tools are you using to work with the subconscious mind or whichever part it is? This is very inspiring to me because what I have done is normally repetition. It can be through affirmations, a little bit of scripting, or even playing affirmations during the night. It works, it helps. But I'm so curious if there is any faster way to do it, because it can be also a bit exhausting in a ways. So are there also advantages if you're working in that way, more advanced than simple affirmations and auto-suggestion?
The problem with just repetition and affirmations is that if you don't believe it, the thing that you're saying, you will keep affirming that you don't believe it. And so by changing your emotional state or by changing your brain state, you're able to allow your subconscious mind to start to believe it a little bit more. And so there'll be less resistance there. Yeah.
Beautiful. How do you get people in that state? How do you apply the methods, whatever they are? I'm so
Yeah.
curious to know.
First of all, anyone can work with it. They, can begin to visualize just as they're drifting off to sleep and just as they're waking up. That's an easy way to just get started. But the program that I do combines some of my very favorite modalities. So I have studied yoga and meditation and neuroscience for many years now, and I've distilled it down into my favorite modalities. My favorite modalities are yoga nidra. Some people pronounce that yoga nidra, but a yoga nidra is the yoga of sleep, and that is a practice where someone lies on their back and then there's a series of steps guiding you through your consciousness to take you to that state. Love yoga nidra. It is one of my absolute favorite things. And then guided visualizations, which are going to be shorter ways to get into that state, not quite as deep. I use a lot of really fun guided imagery in my guided visualizations. Breath work, very powerful. So that takes you into a slightly different kind of trance state. It's more activated. This is a very intense sort of breath work. I always begin with my breath work sessions with a guided visualization to help you drop down and relax. And then we go into a very intense breath work pattern where I guide you specifically to start releasing some of those limiting beliefs, releasing some of that stress and trauma that comes to the surface. And then we end again with a very deep guided visualization. So the breath work is really an intense, in-depth journey. And so those three modalities are part of all the pre-recorded modules. I also do a lot of hypnosis work, so that's included. I do some energetic attunements. And then the really fun part, though, is the technology that I like to pair. So these practices on their own, it's really important people know these practices on their own are designed, they're precision trance states. They're designed to take you into very specific brain states. They're all you need. You only need the practices. However, I'm a neuroscientist. I'm a big nerd. I love the toys. I love the technology. And so I give people the option to pair devices with the practices. So again, that's personal choice. Maybe you just want to do the guided visualization and that's fine. But for those people who like hanging out with me, they're usually a little bit of a nerd like I am. And so I have the technology available for people if they want to use it. This is the first one that I use with all the pre-recorded programs. So this is an audio-visual brainwave entrainment device. In the glasses here, so you can see the glasses, yeah? There are LED lights in there. So you just put the glasses on, you close your eyes, and now the LED lights begin to flash. You're still gonna see the flashing lights in front of your closed eyelids. And then you wear headphones, and those have isochronic pulse tones, so pulsed beats in your ears. The lights and the sound sync up and pulse at the same frequency. Now, this little device is great. It has 28 protocols on it, all different frequencies, different lengths of time for different purposes. So depending on what practice you're doing with me, I'll tell you which protocols will be most in support of the practice you're doing. And you can wear that while you listen to my voice. There is an audio in function on this device. So over here, there's these jacks where you plug in the headphones, the glasses, and then an audio in function. So you can play my video, my voice, plug it into the device, and now you'll hear my guidance under those pulse tones. Now what the lights and the sounds do is the frequency that they are pulsing at is going to help guide your brain into that same frequency. This is just a really interesting thing the brain does. This was actually discovered very early on in EEG research. So EEG was formulated by Hans Berger way back 100 years ago. And shortly after he developed the modality, someone was doing an experiment where they had a light flickering in the room. So there was a light bulb flickering at 10 hertz, which is in the alpha range in our brain. And they noticed that the brain started following that frequency. You notice the brain started creating more 10 hertz oscillations. And so if you are in a relaxed state, your brain can latch onto that external stimulus. Sometimes it's flashing lights, sometimes it's pulse tones, sometimes it's vibration, like a haptic response on your skin, sometimes it's electrical pulses, anything external at a regular repeating frequency. If you are in a relaxed state, that can help drive your brain to create more of that same frequency. And so if we wanted to work, let's say, on the edge of alpha and theta brainwaves. We want to create more of that. There are protocols on there at 7.8 hertz. The lights and the sounds pulse at that frequency. And then if you're relaxed, your brain can start creating more of that frequency. It can just facilitate getting into the desired state you want to be in. So if you want to be in a more meditative state, you can choose the slower lights and sounds to help gradually, gently guide your brain into that frequency that makes it easier to do the practice you desired to do. And so that's the way that works. So that's with all of my pre-recorded practices. Now, this is a new one I'm incorporating. So this is one I've been working with personally for a little while, but I want to start incorporating it in live sessions. This one has much more intense lights, so it doesn't look like much here. It's just 9 LED light or white lights. It doesn't seem like it would do that much, but the lights on that one are so much more intense that I find it a little bit more distracting to do visualization. So I have actually found that one to work really well with energy work. And so for live sessions, I want to start incorporating this one a little bit more and doing some energy attunements with it. I'm very excited to start doing that online. So yeah, that's brand new. That's work I haven't done before. And I'm so excited to share it because I do it with people in person, but I haven't done that online yet. And I'm so excited to start offering that. It's so much fun. And these devices, these are consumer grade devices, so they're quite accessible to people. They're not that expensive, and they just really add something special onto the program that's already great on its own.
It's so amazing what you have told me. I definitely was reading many books or listening to people who are from the field, but I didn't have a chance. And thank you for this opportunity to talk with you. I'm so excited because, as I was mentioning earlier, I did realize you can do it manually, changing the brain, creating new neural pathways. But I then also realized there must be like kind of shortcuts for that. I personally would be very grateful to have these kind of shortcuts. Can you maybe tell us, or also for me, it's interesting to understand, when you are accessing the subconscious mind with all of these modalities together, what then happens on the biological level? Because you said, I'm helping people to change the limiting beliefs or delete them or replace them. So what is then happening really on the biological level?
So several things. First of all, neuroplasticity, of course, is happening. So this is where we get that saying, neurons that fire together wire together.
Yes.
That is from Hebbian learning. So that is the more these new connections create strong connections, they become the new pathway, the others kind of fall away. That's a very simplified version of what happens at a neuronal level. From a physiological level, our brain waves go into different states. Whenever we're accessing the hypnagogic or a trance-like state, we start producing more of the slower frequencies. And one of those slow frequencies that we start producing more of is theta. So theta brainwaves are extremely important for memory. They are largely generated by neurons in the hippocampus of our brain, which is the most important structure for memory. There's also some activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is very important for cognitive function. And whenever you fall into this very meditative state, you start creating more of this theta wave activity. Theta is also associated with things like intuition and creativity. And so it's really fantastic to do some of the guided visualization here. You start working with some of that dreamlike imagery in that state. And you're also, because you're working with memory, you're able to reconsolidate memories or work with, let's say, a new identity that you are bringing forth at this time. That's a really powerful state to be in whenever you're creating a new identity. So the program I'm doing isn't just focused on what's wrong with you. I really don't resonate with trying to fix people. I feel like everyone's perfect. If you have some blocks, like sure, let's get rid of those. But what we spend most of our time on is truly creating that big grand vision for yourself and stepping into it. And that's where a lot of this precision trance work is really focused on, is bringing that big new vision to life. This program is for all those people who are grand visionaries. They know there's something much bigger in their life for them, and they're ready to bring it in, call it in, step into that new, greater identity, that big, bold vision. So that's what's happening.
Wow, Brooke, that's so fantastic. I love your explanations, and I hopefully somewhere soon I will get or understand more in depth all of these technologies, and actually also a little bit biology and everything, because it's not separable from the spiritual work, from creating new vision, stepping into new life or new identity. I talk about identity 2 years, more or less, and that's why my profile is also called Get Your New Identity. Somewhere in this realization that we are more than the humans, that we have the consciousness and the ability to change our perception beliefs. In this intersection, the new identity is then born. I also feel excited in a way that we are in this wave of awakening. The more people come to the realization that they are able to create, and that they were always creating, they were not aware of it. So when we talk about identity, how do you define this for yourself? What is it consisted of? Is the identity the main topic that is holding everything that we are talking about, or is it a part of something bigger? Is identity something that is driving change, or you're focusing more on something else, and then identity becomes a part of that concept? How do you see it?
Just from how my mind personally works, is I work from a whole vision. And so within that vision is me, right? But I see it as a whole and complete vision. So I know you mentioned the dancing Jaguar whenever we were doing introductions. This is the vision that I constantly work from. And so the vision I have in my mind and the identity of myself is the person running my retreat center full time in Costa Rica. And so I see myself as the retreat hostess, and I see the retreat center completely built, because right now it is land. And a fun aside, I actually saw the land in my dreams, my visions, before we purchased it. And it's like the exact land from my vision. So I remember doing these guided visualizations of myself, listening to my own voice, and going to visit this land one day. And I just had this crazy, profound experience where I realized it was the exact land from my vision. So that was very exciting. But now I don't just lead from the land. Now I'm leading from that vision, that identity of the person who has the fully built, fully running retreat center.
Okay, so it is more inseparable from the vision. Vision and the person, it goes somehow together in your mind.
In my mind, that's how it works.
Okay, so you were mentioning already your retreats, so I would really love to understand a little bit what is the whole vision. Why Costa Rica? Why Jaguar? Because we were talking about the monkeys. And what are the milestones you think that are leading you there? Because obviously you have a land now, you're also looking for investors. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes, I wanted to go to Costa Rica when I was an undergraduate studying zoology. I remember seeing there was a bulletin in the hallway for students to have this lovely volunteer field research opportunity in the Osa Peninsula, which is the southern Pacific part of Costa Rica, most biodiverse place on the planet. And I wanted to do it so badly, but I was very young and very, I thought, poor. And I thought it was like $2,000 to go on this trip. And I thought there's no way, it might as well have been $1 million to me when I was that age and still in school. So I just assumed it was impossible to do. And I just remember being so sad because that was something I was really passionate about doing and I didn't get to do it. And so I always in my mind wanted to go back and enjoy the jungle and see the monkeys. And I ended up doing this really wonderful volunteer expedition to Sri Lanka early on in graduate school, where I did get to follow monkeys to the jungle and record data and stuff like that. And it was so eye-opening to me. I just knew I wanted to somehow be living in an area where I was amongst all of this wonderful wildlife. When I finished my PhD, my present to myself was to go to Costa Rica. I went with one of my best girlfriends. I had been very much into yoga at this time. This was in 2008. And I remember at the back of a yoga journal magazine, there was an advertisement for a yoga retreat center on the Caribbean side of Costa Rica. And so we went there, and it was everything I ever wanted in one spot. It was yoga. It was in a hill overlooking the ocean on the Caribbean side. It was in the jungle. I could hear monkeys at 4 a.m. My friend and I went out and followed them through the jungle. And I was just like, this is amazing. This is everything I want right here in this one spot. And I knew once I visited there, I knew that's what I needed to do for myself. And I was, of course, again, thinking I was a very poor postdoc at this point where I just finished grad school. I'm like, well, this is impossible. I can't make this dream happen. But then over the years, the more I would tell people about it, the more it became true. I'm like, no, this is really happening. Then I met my husband, who was just on board with it. He's like, okay, so we're going to go to Costa Rica and we're going to buy land and we're going to start a retreat center. The more you say it out loud to people, I think the more true it starts to become. And the more things happen, the more you realize, well, this is actually happening. But there were breadcrumbs along the way, right? There were all these breadcrumbs leading me there, letting me know this is the path. And it was really across the breadcrumbs of where to go, my love for nature, wildlife, monkeys, for all my research in neuroscience. It's brought me full circle as well. And it was all of the breadcrumbs in the yoga world as well that kept taking me to all these different modalities. And now everything is coming together as a single vision, and it's just magic.
Yeah, I love how you explained it. 2 years ago, I created a new vision for myself, and it consists from different things, which at the first sight, they look not connected. I don't know how can this possibly come together. And then as you go, you actually start to see, as you name them, breadcrumbs. Some pieces are coming in a weird way together, and this vision gets clearer and clearer as you go, and you realize that there are possibilities to merge all of these things. And that is so beautiful. I just got goosebumps. I'm sure everything is perfectly unfolding for you. And I love the nature. I was visiting many places in Africa. We kind of disconnected from the nature because we started to live in the cities and we forgot. Every time I was spending a little bit more time there, it brought such an openness in myself, in my heart, and the visions normally came through, and I was dreaming more. So I really know that the nature is a place where you can really grow that vision, and you can really do all of these transformations that we are talking about much easier. That's why your retreat with a mixture of the ancient, let's call them, practices and the modern technologies in the nature is such a beautiful concept that is slowly coming into life. Are there any steps now that you are doing for that? Are you actively approaching investors? How do you go about the vision at this moment?
We did live in Costa Rica 15 months solid to get a start on it. We have found our lawyers and vendors and just all the people we love down there that we want to work with, all the products. We got to know our land quite a bit. We found the perfect architect. And so we have the grand vision developed with our architect, and we know exactly where everything is going to be on the land. At the moment, we're accumulating capital to start building. Our plan is to build in 3 phases. So the first phase would be building some of the casitas. So we have a main house for the retreat. We have a communal area with dining and yoga deck. And then we have small casitas. So each person or 2 people have their own little casita overlooking a beautiful view. So we are, just to explain a little bit where we're at, we're in the Southern Pacific Zone. We are about 2,400 feet up a mountain. And so we have this gorgeous view out over the ocean. So the horizon is ocean, unless it's a very cloudy day, and then we're just in the clouds, and that is gorgeous too. And then we have jungle all around us, a beautiful stream. So it's just perfect. So at the moment, we're accumulating capital to start that first phase of building, which will be the casitas. And then after that, we'll build the main house in the communal area. My husband and I were doing a pretty good job getting that building fund going. And so it's happening one way or another. However, we are certainly open to fully aligned investors that could either help us make it happen faster or to actually expand it. There is a little bit of land touching it that is also for sale. So I am open to an even grander vision of the Dancing Jaguar if we were to find very aligned investors who have the same vision as us.
That's amazing. Have you ever thought to start creating retreats somewhere close and you're still in the Costa Rica, but just to bring whole vision even closer to you, and then at the same time building the compound and then just moving it there?
Yes. So as I'm launching Alchemical Trance, the online program right now, the goal with that is really to start creating the community, the Dancing Jaguar community. And yes, I know many beautiful retreats already down in Costa Rica, so we could certainly gather there in person. I'm currently residing in Tampa, Florida, so there's plenty of places in the United States we could also gather. So step 1 is I just want to get this beautiful Dancing Jaguar community going, and then I love meeting up in person, so I'm all for it.
Perfect. What kind of impact would you like to have on the people who come into your world and retreats? What kind of transformation you offer for them? What is your vision that somebody who visits your retreat, with what kind of feeling, emotions, and vision he should be leaving the retreat? What is your intention?
I want them to feel completely connected to their mission in life and know that they're completely supported in bringing that vision to life. I also want them to feel so very connected to the energy and the nature in Costa Rica, if that's where we're at. When I think about the jungle there, I call it the Emerald Realm. It feels like it's the place where all life emerges from. It's so green, there's so much life there. It's like everything comes out of there. It's like the womb of creation. And so I hope other people feel that when they're there. They feel this connection to the nature, they feel the connection to all the life. And I hope that they feel connected to their own mission and they can bring that to life as well. So imagine that you're in this sort of womb of creation in Costa Rica, bringing your own creation to life.
Fantastic, really fantastic. As I mentioned, I realized just recently that every time I was in the nature and I was visiting Africa, because it was so different than many things I knew, I was dreaming. I'm sure that on your retreats, people are going to tap into the vision and the mission that they are here for and will be catapulted in the next chapter of their lives.
It's the kind of fun of all of the practices that I've pre-recorded. A lot of them, a big portion of them were recorded in Costa Rica at night, because sometimes there's construction and stuff going on during the day. So I'd always do it at nighttime. And no matter how wonderful your microphone is, you cannot drown out the noise of nature in Costa Rica. And so it almost sounds like I've added a nature track in the background of all my recordings, because you just hear the life in the background. So hopefully people can pick up on that on the pre-recorded journeys and get a little bit of that connection to the jungle.
That's so beautiful. Before we finish, Brooke, I would love to ask one question. So if you could leave our listeners with one message, one truth you have learned through your personal journey, your research, or your experience working with people, what would it be?
I would say that those desires that you have deep in your heart that won't leave you alone, those aren't just silly dreams. They are there for a reason. They're the signposts, they're the breadcrumbs to help you live the mission you're here to serve. And we're all meant to be doing that mission that lives in our hearts. And there are ways to make it happen. And one of the best ways I know is through community. So whatever community you find that supports you in bringing your big visions to life, I highly recommend it.
I completely agree. Brooke, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and your scientific knowledge and experiences and your vision. Thank you for everyone who is listening. So remember that change is possible and growth is possible, and perhaps there is far more potential within you than you have ever been taught to believe. And thank you for joining us on the Limitless. So until next time, stay curious and stay conscious, and remember, you are far more powerful than you think. Sending you love.